one of the things that they like to talk about, right, is Easter, right? How Easter is this horrible, demonic, pagan thing, right? So let's deal with that itself, right? So, and to be transparent, I was once one of those guys. I've shared this before when it came to Christmas. I was one of those guys that believed that Christmas and Easter was pagan and, this, that. And I read, what was that book? The Two Babylons. You know what I mean? It's like the woke starter kit books. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I got the special knowledge. And but as I continued doing my research and I kept studying, I kept reading, I realized I was wrong. I was wrong. So with that being said, let me share my screen. Alrighty. See, everybody can see that? Yep. All right. So we're going to read a lot from this book called The Encyclopedia of Easter, Carnival, and Lent by Tanya Kovich. And it says here, in Rome, the earliest celebration of Easter on the Sunday following the start of Passover took place around the year 165. Keep that year and date in mind. Okay, so Easter was celebrated. The earliest recording is the year 165. Okay, though other communities may have began the practice before that time, Christian authorities in Rome became strong advocates for this method of setting a date for Easter in those communities. They looked to Rome for leadership, adopted this model. Historians still debate when and where the first Easter celebrations took place. Historical evidence uncovered to date suggests they took place in Asia Minor around the middle of the 2nd century, and that they coincided with the Jewish festival of Passover. Remember that, right? Remember the date. We're talking about 2nd century, right? Mid 2nd century. Nevertheless, some scholars believe that earlier celebrations may have taken place in other Christian communities. In 325 AD, Christian leaders from all corners of the globe converged in Nicaea, a small town near Constantinople, now Istanbul, Turkey. The Roman Emperor Constantine convened this gathering known as the Council of Nicaea in order that Christian officials come to agreement on several important issues concerning Christian doctrine and worship. Constantine issued several pronouncements concerning the proper date of Easter based on the conclusions reached during this series of meetings. The emperor decreed that henceforth all Christians should celebrate Easter on the same day. Now, this is really important because this is what they actually talked about in this meeting. They didn't invent Jesus in this council. They didn't vote for the canonization of the books, right? This is actually one of the things that they did discuss in this council. What day should we celebrate Easter, right? Because depending on which church you was at, they celebrated different dates. So they decided to, figure out one fixed date for this particular holiday. Right? Now, this is a popular meme that we've all seen, right? This is Ishtar, pronounced Easter, right? Which actually, if you really do pronounce Ishtar, it doesn't sound like Easter. But anyway, Easter was originally the celebration of Ishtar, the Assyrian and Babylonian goddess of fertility and sex. Her symbols, like the egg and the bunny, were still are fertility and sex symbols, or did you actually think eggs and bunnies had anything to do with the resurrection? Aha. After Constantine decided to Christianize the empire, Easter was changed to represent Jesus. But at its roots, Easter, which is now you pronounce Ishtar, is all about celebrating fertility and sex. So clearly we see that the church was celebrating this way before there was even such a person as Constantine. So that meme was already wrong in that part. But it's also wrong when it comes to Ishtar. Right? Because there's an article in the Scientific American. So the word Easter does not appear to be derived from Ishtar, but from the German Astarte, the goddess of the dawn. A bringer of light. English and German are in the minority of languages that use a form of the word Easter to mark the holiday. Elsewhere, the observance is framed in Latin, Pesach, which in turn is derived from the Hebrew Pesach, meaning of or associated with Passover. Easter and Ishtar and Easter appear to be homophones. They may be pronounced similarly, but have different meanings. So not only was the meme wrong about the date in which people celebrated Easter, it celebrated way before Constantine. But it's the wrong deity. It's the wrong deity. It's not Ishtar. It's Esotar. I'm butchering that name. Right? Ishtar was the goddess of love and war and sex, as well as protection, fate, childbirth, marriage, and storms. There's some fertility in there, but as with Aphrodite, there's also an element of power. Her cult practiced sacred prostitution, where men waited at a temple and had sex with a stranger in exchange for a divine blessing and money to feed hungry children or pay a debt. Ishtar symbols were the lion, the morning star, and 8 or 16 pointed stars. Again, symbols of power. No bunny rabbits, no eggs. Lion, morning star, and pointed stars. So again, it's not there, right? Funny thing about this Ishtar deity, it says here most writers assert that it came from the name of an Anglo-Saxon goddess, Ishtar. They based this assertion on the writings of a scholarly monk known as Saint Bede. Bede proposed that the Anglo-Saxons, the ancestors of the English people, named the month of April after a pagan goddess. According to Bede, they called it Ishtar Manaf, after the goddess Ishtar, also spelled Ishtar. Bede explained that since the Easter festival fell in the month of the goddess, the people called the festival by the same name. They point out that scholars have not found any other mention of Ishtar in ancient or medieval documents. They believe that this lack of corroborating evidence may mean that Bede, who was raised and educated in a monastery and therefore may not have been conversant with folklore and pagan religious beliefs, was presenting his readers with an educated guess rather than solid facts. So let me stop here. So people say that Easter comes from Ishtar. Ishtar it's not Easter. It's right. They say it was this deity named Ishtar, and Ishtar had different symbols than Ishtar. It wasn't eggs and bunnies. It was weapons and power, right? But even now with this deity, there isn't really much evidence that this deity existed, right? Now, all right. So, let me keep going. So I said they offered several other theories to explain the origin of the word Easter. One proposal suggests that the word Easter comes from Eostor, an old Norse word for spring. Another asserts that it comes from an old Germanic and Anglo-Saxon word for east. Early Germanic languages offered many variants of the word for east, which appears to be related to the Anglo-Saxon term for east. These include Ostana, Osten, and Osten. Some researchers argue that the English term Easter has its roots in these old words. Finally, other writers contend that the word Easter arrived in the English language via a mistaken interpretation of a Latin phrase. Early Latin-speaking Christians called the Easter festival Hebdomada Alba, or the Week of Albs, a name that refers to the white robes worn by baptismal candidates during the Easter Vigil and the 8 days following. Although in this context, the word Alba serves as the feminine form of Albus, meaning white, some thought it was the word Alba, meaning dawn. According to this theory, old High German speakers called the festival Estorun, or dawn, in their own language. The word Estorun evolved into contemporary German Ostern and the English Easter. So there's a lot of confusion about, the origin of this particular word. So to say that this word is specifically attached to a pagan deity, you can't make that claim. You really can't make that claim. But again, right, to be transparent, there is a scholar by the name of Philip A. Shaw who wrote a book called Pagan Goddesses in the Early Germanic World, Istore, Hedra, and the Cult of Matrons. So this guy really looked for more proof to see if this deity existed. And he says here, whether we may think of Bede's overall portrayal of the pre-Christian past of the English, I would argue that there is sufficient evidence to suggest that Istare and Harda are plausible names for Anglo-Saxon pre-Christian goddesses. And moreover, names that give us some important clues to the ways in which social and religious life intersected in early Anglo-Saxon society. Now, mind you, in his research, he's saying that there are plausible names, right? So he's making these very educated guesses, right? And funny enough, when you read this book, he really debunks other people's ways of trying to connect a story with Easter within this book, even though he himself is trying to prove that this deity did exist. Shaw notes two places called Eastleigh, one in Kent and one in Cambridgeshire, and one called Esterton in Yorkshire. He interprets the first two as referring to district of Ishtar and the latter as the enclosure of the Easterlings, i.e. the people of Ishtar. He also notes the Anglo-Saxon personal name Easterwine, literally Istare friend, which happened to be the name of a 7th century abbot of Bede's monastery of Jarrow. Then there is the Middle English name Estrid, which seems to derive from the Old English form Estolrid. So let me stop there for a minute, because I know there was a whole lot. So as you see, so for people to make this connection that Easter is from this pagan god, you just really can't do it. Like, people in the scholarly realm are still debating the etymology of the word. They're still not sure. They're still not sure where the word comes from. Now, but that's just for us English speakers. Outside of the English-speaking world, there is no problem. It's just Pesha, which comes from the Hebrew word Passover. No problems there. It's only when we start dealing with the English and the Germanic language, that's where you start having some complications. Some thoughts before we continue.
I mean, this is no different than all the other pseudo stuff that they come up with. Jesus is Horus and every other thing else that they come up with to, in their attempts to make Christianity be a copy of whatever it is that they're trying to make Christianity be a copy of. And time again, the facts never fall in their favor. And I think they take they try to take advantage of Christians who don't study the history of Christianity, right? They take advantage of that, and they bring these similarities that in this case aren't even real similarities. Like, it's made up, right? But they try to take similarities and say, well, see, this is similar. But when you really start diving into it, you're like, no, it's not. Like, you're forcing this to fit you're already, to confirm whatever bias it is that you have against Christianity. So I think the lesson for all of us is, first of all, these memes that get floated around, listen here, memeology is causing people to really be out in these streets looking a fool. Okay. Every meme, if you ever get a meme, I dare you, let it spark you to go research, because 9 times out of 10 it's not going to be right. I'm telling you, especially if you're coming from a certain community.
Yeah, I was about to say that meme. I'm like, you got this information from a meme, and then right. You think this is what? Yeah, and you think this is real? If they show you that meme, because you now know that it's a Germanic word, ask them, was ist das? If they cannot answer you in German or in English, what you do is then you be like, you just debunk them with the Germanic. And then if you want to, you start counting down for them so they know they don't have enough time. Go, ein, klein, klein. I love how German sound. Okay, and then ask them. Then be like, that's book. And then they think you crazy. But here's the thing: obviously, you don't speak German for you to even know where Easter came from. So you just prove my point. Like, you do that to them.
And I think this is an encouragement for believers that you don't have to be afraid of these types of challenges against the faith, because I think sometimes people are afraid to engage in these types of conversations or even engage this type of data for fear that something is going to come along and cause them to want to to shake their faith. But let me tell you something, just do the work, family. Do the work, and if you don't, if you feel a little afraid to do the work, come watch BK Apologist because he just did the work.
Or better yet, join his Patreon because you might get something that'll help you debunk it. And join our Patreon.
On the ready.
You really want to be about that life? Just share the video on your page and say, "Look here, watch this." Give him the timestamp, and then just let the chips fall where they may.
And then ask them was ist das. That's all I'm telling you. You say was ist das, das Buch, and just start counting German. They're gonna be scared because they're not gonna know what you're saying. And then, or for two, they have to now prove that they understand the origin of Easter because they don't speak German and it's a German word. All I'm saying is those are your options. Either read and join BK's Patreon to get the information you need, or just speak German to them. You got plenty of options.
One of the best memes that are out there that BK debunked was the one where they had the what was it? Some kind of like park or something like that, and they were trying to make it that as if it was the actual
in ancient Egypt.
Egypt, yeah. It was some kind.
It was the mummy. It was the mummy ride.
Yeah, the mummy ride. Yeah, right. These beautiful temples preserved in time.
Don't let no meme shake your face. Listen, if a meme is shaking your face, I got some questions for you. Don't let no meme shake your face. Like, I mean, they throw these memes up all the time. All you got to do is in the comments, when you them debunked it, they'll be like, it was all a meme.
Listen to Mother Mill. So with that, we just went at the name, right? Easter. Let's talk about this guy, right? Because this guy causes all sorts of havoc on the interwebs, right? At this time, the Easter Bunny.
Telling you.
So, going back to the Encyclopedia of Easter, how did this delightful creature known as the Easter Bunny come to be associated with the holiday? Folklorists cannot give a precise answer to this question. The people who study folklore, this is what they do. This is the lane. They can't give you an answer. These guys, this is what they do.
Wow.
They can't tell you, right? But this is what we learned from them. They say this. The earliest known reference to the Easter hare in any known historical document comes from a German book printed in the year 1572. When did the church start celebrating Easter? Mid-second century.
165.
165. First time we even hear of this guy, 1572. The author writes, "Do not worry if the bunny escapes you. Should we miss his eggs, then we shall cook the nest." German immigrants brought legends and customs concerning the Easter hare with them to the United States in the 18th century. In the 19th century, strengthened by new waves of German immigration, these legends and customs began to seep out into the wider American population. By the 1890s, fashionable sweet shops in the big cities of the eastern United States featured Easter candy in the shape of rabbits. Since Americans in general tend to lump hares and rabbits together, Americans soon converted the German Easter hare into the Easter rabbit and then the Easter bunny. So the bunny is not a direct link to Ishtar or this other German deity that we're not even sure really existed. And then he shows up in the 1890s. Oh, but it's from these pagan gods, from the ancient times. It's like 1890s, fam. 1890s. All right. Easter eggs, right? Well, this gotta be from, the devil incarnate, right? Like, it just has to be. No one is sure exactly when the exchange of dyed eggs became part of the Easter festival. Let me stop there. No one knows. These people who are experts in folklore they got to guesstimate, right? There is no direct linkage to anything. They're just guesstimating here. Nevertheless, folklorists believe they know why colored eggs became a symbol of the holiday. The egg has long served humanity as an emblem of new life. All around the world, Christians ate eggs at Easter. They also decorated them using a variety of methods to dye them in a single color or to cover them with elaborate designs. In some cultures, these decorated Easter eggs are exchanged as gifts, and other people hang them on Easter egg trees. And still others, they become part of Easter egg hunts and various other egg games, including egg rolling, egg taping, and pace egging. I don't know what pace egging is. That must be interesting. Now, to get more context about these eggs, right? In late medieval Europe, people paid their clergymen, shout out to Pastor Colin, and made donations to their local church in the form of eggs. These egg tithes came due at Easter time. They may also pay their landlord in eggs. These customs can be traced back at least as far as the late 13th century in England. Now remember, when do we start celebrating Easter? Mid-2nd century. This is late 13th century. They also existed in the Netherlands, Estonia, and Germany during this era. Germans dubbed this unpopular levy of precious springtime eggs the Osterrite or Easterrite. In some countries, people made these offerings on Good Friday during the ceremony known as the Veneration of the Cross. As they approached the cross, they left baskets of eggs, sometimes accompanied by other foodstuffs such as bacon or grain. Documents revealed that this custom was practiced in England and Italy. It began to die out in the 16th century. Folklorists believe that traces of this old practice lingered for centuries in the common folk custom of making the local priest a small gift of eggs. At Easter time, researchers recorded evidence that this custom was still being practiced in parts of France, Hungary, Italy, well into the 20th century. In some places, families sent children to church with great baskets of Easter eggs. The priest blessed the eggs, and the children gave some of them to him in return. Afterward, the children brought the eggs home, and the family placed them on a beautifully decorated table along with other elements of the Easter feast. So, nowhere does it say that it's from any kind of like demonic origin, right? It then started appearing into the late 13th century, and it kind of died out. And the reason why it was a big thing is because they paid people with eggs back in the days. You know, like if Colin was in medieval 13th century, we would be paying Colin in eggs. It's just what we do, right?
Colin wants to be paid in peeps.
Yeah, he wasn't paying peeps. Heretic.
No, he doesn't. Colin clearly worships Ishtar. Do you see the picture behind him?
Am I the only one that's gonna point this out? That's true.
That's Lion glasses or something.
CMB exposed.
Shout out to 816, Miss Titus 2, and Val Johnson for their super chats.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. I can't see it when I'm sharing my slides, but thank you very much. But again, right? Eggs was just this is how you pay people. You paid rent with eggs. You paid your landlord with eggs, fam. So when it's time to celebrate the death, burial, and resurrection to show your appreciation to the priest, it was an offering. You gave him some eggs. Why? Because it was considered payments. There wasn't no super esoteric thing behind it. This is what you did. Right? So
I wouldn't be paid in cash. Let me not hold you.
I mean, it's just what it is. It's like, yeah, I mean, but back then that was money. That was currency. Eggs. Right. Again, right? Understanding the cultural context is so important.
Well, see, the problem, BK, is that your third eye is not open and your pineal gland is calcified. That's the reason why you don't understand about the Easter eggs and Ishtar. If you had your third eye open and it was decalcified, you would then get to see, my brother, that what you saying is against the melanated people.
Preach it, sis.
But here's the thing, right? But even if there is other myths concerning eggs and bunny rabbits, let's say there is, right? It goes back to the same thing we said in our Christmas special, right? It's all about the intent.
Right.
Right?
Say it again.
So let me quote this again. I've done this before, but this is from the book, The Deities of Many, A Polytheistic Theology. It says here, I read Paper's book on polytheism called The Gods of Many. Jordan Paper is a practicing polytheist. He's retired now from teaching, but I still see him from time to time in SBL meetings. I know what he looks like. He's a practicing polytheist, and he has a very he was very transparent about his quote unquote faith. This is a scholarly meeting. He's not holding anything back here. He says basically, this only works if you solicit this kind of contact. It doesn't just happen. You have to want it, and you have to do things to solicit it, and the powers. He would use these terms, the powers, their gods. The spirits will respond if you're open to their contact, to what they can do for you. And this was his faith. So even if there, was some kind of other belief systems that use these symbols for their religion, are the Christians doing that? What's the Christians' intent when they have bunny rabbits, the chocolate bunnies and the eggs, and Pastor Colin with his peeps? What's the intent? Is he worshiping this Germanic deity that people still don't know if he really exists or not? No. What are Christians thinking of during this time? Today, Good Friday. What's the intent? What's the purpose of this day? What's the purpose of what's going to happen on Sunday? What are Christians thinking about? Ishtar, Istare, or Jesus?
Right.
Because again, if all it takes is for me to have a bunny and an egg to worship a pagan deity, then all it takes for me to worship Christ is to wear a cross.
Right.
And if that's the case, then you have a cheap sense of worship. And we went through the whole rigmarole about what worship is in the Bible. It is a concentrated effort, right? Even the pagans understand that. The pagans, it's a concentrated effort when they worship their gods. Why isn't that the same sense for us? Do we have a concentrated sense of worship when it comes to Jesus? Or do we think that, wearing these beautiful hats the sisters are wearing, or wearing a cross, like that's it, right? I did my part. No, you did not. You know what I mean? So don't let these people, sway you. Oh, if you have an egg or you're a bunny rabbit, somehow you tripped and fell into idolatry. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. During this time, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about Christ. You're thinking about what he's done for you. You thought about how he hung on that cross, beaten beyond human, comprehension, and rose on the third day. That's what you're thinking about. You're not thinking about Ishtar. You probably didn't even know who these deities were until you came today to the bodega. You know what I mean? So, again, do not have a cheap sense of worship. Thoughts?
I'm still trying to figure out if anybody can explain how you worship someone by accident. You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, the really and truly, man, I'm so grateful you put this stuff out there. If y'all missed the Christmas special, more of the same, so it was really good. And you have to see Dinu's outfit, by the way, for the Christmas special.
And the dance.
And the dance. You forget the dance.
Shani won though, but Shani won. Let me throw it out there. Shani did win because her Christmas sweater was an actual Christmas tree. Like the whole thing was a tree. Shani won. Somebody cheated. Somebody cheated for Dinu.
Graph. I won the graph.
No, somebody cheated for her. Somebody cheated for her. But I ain't gonna talk about Bible hacking because he's not here. But he cheated. He cheated for Dinu. Shani won legitly, but Dinu won by default.
Shani.
And just like in the black church, the mothers are fighting.